In no particular order, here are the richest zip codes in the U.S. according to Bloomberg. Number 10, Atherton, California, 94027. The roughly 7,000 residents of this zip code in California has an average income of $1.72 million, according to Bloomberg's 2020 calculations. Atherton is a town that was incorporated back in 1923, but most of the wealth from its residents is pretty recent because it was made in Silicon Valley. Living in Atherton definitely is not cheap. It's had the Bay Area's highest home prices for years. The median home price here is around $8.1 million. It definitely makes sense that the people who can afford to buy a home here are celebrities and tech moguls with deep pockets. Atherton is located less than 20 minutes away from most of the major tech companies in Silicon Valley, such as Facebook and Google. And its high-end mansions are some of the most private and luxurious in California. One famous resident is the guy who created WhatsApp. Jan Koum became an overnight billionaire when Facebook bought the messaging app back in 2014. Over the past several years, he spent nearly $80 million to build a compound in Atherton. Another famous resident you probably have heard of is Steph Curry. He owns a 3-story mansion with a guest house in Atherton, which he bought for $31 million in June of 2020. Number 9, Palm Beach, Florida, 33480. This is the zip code with the third richest residents of the U.S. Residents here have an average income of roughly $1.46 million, according to Bloomberg. So, who are some famous people that have property or live here? Bill Gates is a member of this zip code because when you have as much money as he does, why not? However, the most famous resident is easily President Trump. He famously owns Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach. He actually filed papers to make it his official permanent home in 2019. Did hefty taxes in Manhattan have anything to do with this? Apparently, neighbors of President Trump in Mar-a-Lago aren't exactly thrilled to have him back. Even before he became president, Trump supposedly created ill will in the town by refusing to comply with the local requirements. For example, he didn't follow the height limits for a massive flagpole he had installed. But now, they have more concerns simply because of the potential disruptions from all the extra attention ever since he became president. They're worried about heavy traffic and blocked streets. There was even a demand letter sent to the town of Palm Beach and the Secret Service to try to keep Trump from becoming a permanent resident at his own private club. But Palm Beach hasn't made any public attempts to prevent President Trump from living at Mar-a-Lago yet. Number 8, Palo Alto, California, 94301. This is the city known as the birthplace of Silicon Valley, and the residents here have an average income of roughly $1.26 million. It's the headquarters of a number of high technology companies such as HP, Tesla, and Skype. And we can't forget about Google, Facebook, and Apple. This is a place where exclusivity is all a part of the culture. For example, Stanford University accepts fewer than 5% of its applicants, and hiring rates for the tech giants are estimated to be under 0.2%. The city of Palo Alto was named after a 1,000-year-old coastal redwood tree along San Francisco Creek where early Spanish explorers settled. We don't need to say that it's expensive to live here. The residents that make less than $500,000 supposedly feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck. Los Angeles is actually around 37% cheaper in comparison with Palo Alto housing costs, and LA is definitely expensive enough. The list of famous and rich people that are from or live in Palo Alto is long. For example, actors and brothers James and Dave Franco were born and raised in Palo Alto. Actress Terry Hatcher from Desperate Housewives was also born here. Then there's all the tech entrepreneurs who've lived here, such as Google co-founder Sergey Brin, Apple CEO Tim Cook, and of course, Steve Jobs. Number 7, Medina, Washington, 98039. This is the zip code that's home to Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. It makes sense that two of the richest guys on Earth would be pulling up the average income here. This is where Gates actually lives because he built a mega compound, which will get to in just a minute. Medina has a population of estimated 3,000 people and an average income of around $870,000. For Jeff Bezos, his home base is a nearly 29,000 square foot estate that spans about 5.3 acres. He paid around $10 million for the property back in 1998. As for Bill, he owns a mansion that he calls Xanadu 2.0, which overlooks Lake Washington. It took him 7 years and $63 million to build. It's named after the fictional home of Charles Foster Kane, the main character of Citizen Kane. Medina itself is on a peninsula in Lake Washington on the opposite shore from Seattle. Pretty much all the residents in the area get to enjoy the view of Seattle. In fact, almost all of the houses on the water in Medina have a dock and a small private beach. Number 6. Los Angeles, California, 90067. It really should be no surprise that LA is on the list of zip codes with the richest residents, since it's home to a lot of Hollywood stars and celebrities. This area has an average income of right around $1 million, according to Bloomberg's calculations. However, Los Angeles is also known for its wide swings in income disparity depending on where you go in the neighborhood. Zip code 90067 is known as Century City, and it's basically a 176-acre giant business district. It's the home of where all the important deals in LA get done. It's home to top talent agencies such as CAA to A-list law firms such as Zifrin Brittingham. The land that Century City sits on used to belong to cowboy actor Tom Mix, who used it as a ranch. It later became the backlot of 20th Century Fox, which still has its headquarters just to the southwest of the area. So it makes sense why it's called Century City. Modernist architects I.M. Pai, Charles Luckman, and Minoru Yamasaki famously each designed towers that form the distinctive skyline of LA. Number 5. Harrison, New York, 10557. Westchester County of New York is known for being home to some of the wealthiest communities in the U.S. Harrison is approximately 22 miles northeast of Manhattan and has roughly a population of 29,000 people. Residents here have an average income of around $987,000 according to Bloomberg. Harrison was established way back around 1696 when John Harrison first bought the land along with 4 of his partners. This is according to Harrison's first town historian. This transaction was known as Harrison's Purchase. Eventually, they sold the land to Quakers. They were the town's first settlers who appeared around 1724. In Harrison, there's a significant presence of Italian restaurants. This is a result of the town's significant Italian immigrant population that arrived when the railroad was built in 1848. Today, it's now known as an area with plenty of the rich and famous. Former Yankee Mariano Rivera calls Harrison home. Another famous former Yankee that lives there is Joe Torre. Number 4. Kennelworth, Illinois, 60043. This is a small town that's 15 miles north of downtown Chicago. In 2020, the average income of the roughly 2,500 residents estimated by Bloomberg in Kennelworth is $882,600. Kenilworth was founded in 1889 when Joseph Sears bought 223.6 acres of land for around $150,000. Nope, this isn't the same Sears of the famous Sears, Roebuck & Company. Joseph just happened to have the same last name. Joseph Sears was an executive at N.K. Fairbank & Company, a trading company that dealt in lard, oil, soaps, and candles. Sears had a dream to own large country estates that he could leave to his family and later generations, and that was the reason he founded Kennelworth officially back in 1889. Its reputation for its history for being a planned community is a pretty big deal in Kennelworth. However, not all residents will agree with holding Joseph Sears in high regard. There have been petitions in late 2020 to have the Joseph Sears School renamed. Some of the notable residents include Deborah Cafaro, who's a minority owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and multi-billionaire Jude Reyes. Number 3. Weston, Massachusetts, 02493. Massachusetts is home to 9 of the 100 richest zip codes in the U.S., and Weston residents are the richest. They have an average gross income of around $854,000. With around 11,000 residents, Weston is located just about 15 miles west of downtown Boston. It was incorporated back in 1713, so there's plenty of history to the town, which is kind of its thing. The town has 26 historic areas and 7 houses individually listed on the National Register of Historic Places. In fact, more than 2,000 acres, or roughly 20% of the town's total land, has been preserved for parks, fields, and forests. There's around 90 miles of trails dedicated for hiking, horseback riding, and cross-country skiing. Who are some of the celebrities that live here? Weston used to be home to former Celtic Kyrie Irving, but of course, he's moved out ever since he went to the Brooklyn Nets. ESPN analyst and former quarterback Matt Hasselbeck bought a $5.6 million mansion in Weston in 2016. Then there's Boston legend David Ortiz, who used to live in Weston during his legendary playing days. Number 2, Fisher Island, Florida, 33109. This is a private 216-acre tropical paradise that's located just off the southern tip of Miami Beach. Fisher Island is the zip code with the richest Americans. With only a population of 594, Fisher Island has an average income of a whopping $2.2 million, according to Bloomberg's calculations. With that type of money, residents of this island get to enjoy the exceptional luxury of the sparkling blue waters along with the gorgeous views of Biscayne Bay. Fisher Island is actually a man-made island that was created by the government in 1906. They dug up a canal between South Beach and what's now the island in order to ease traffic in the area. Members of the Fisher Island Club get to experience the private beaches with sand that's imported straight from the Bahamas. There are also world-class restaurants, 2 marinas, a golf course, and 18 tennis courts on this one tiny island. Of course, the preferred mode of transportation on the island is by golf cart. Many CEOs, celebrities, and athletes from around the world have been residents of Fisher Island, such as Andre Agassi, Julia Roberts, and Oprah Winfrey. In fact, Oprah's former 4-bedroom condo in Fisher Island features wraparound terraces with a 360-degree view of the water and city skylines. On the last day of November 2020, that condo sold for $20 million. Number 1, Gladwin, Pennsylvania, 19035. This is easily the most town with the richest residents in Pennsylvania. Gladwin is a suburban community along the historic Philadelphia main line, and it ranks 10th in the nation when it comes to average income in the entire country. The roughly 4,000 residents here have an average income of around $845,000. Director M. Night Shyamalan used to call Gladwin his home before leaving. This is the reason why some of his films were filmed in Philadelphia, such as The Sixth Sense and The Happening. Other notable people that have lived in the town are Sixers legend Allen Iverson and former Philly star Chase Utley. Here's what's next.